So we have a sacred conversation every Sunday, a conversation with the intention of mindfulness, with the intention of awareness. I just want to have a little disclosure here. We may have an amen choir in the house today. We're having a beautiful rainstorm here in this area. And so right before this service, we had a boom that was one of those home shaking booms. So if you hear a boom, I am just affirming that it comes at the right time for each one of us to say, wake up. And if you get one in your home, wherever you are, just take it as a listen now. So let's take a deep breath. We are on the tail end of this type of spiritual community, spiritual experience together. We're going to be gathering in-house at the beginning of June. So this is a shifting, a changing experience. So soak up every little bit of what you appreciate about right here and right now, about this moment, whether it's being able to see people's noses or their eyeballs, whatever it is in this experience of what our spiritual community looks like right now. We will continue to have the Zoom room open, so do not worry about that. We have amazing Zoom room hosts, and so this community is continuing to expand and include everyone from everywhere. So if we do not know who you are, and you are a live streamer that is out of town or in town, please reach out and let us know who you are. Send an email to Unity Village Chapel or hop into our Facebook community page and introduce yourself so that we can greet you and welcome you, and you can let us know where you participate in this spiritual community from. I was texting someone the other night, and I was trying to put in a word into the text stream. And as I got to that word, it was showing me that there were other words available, but the word I was putting in was not the correct word. In fact, that word didn't exist. So what was really going on was that I didn't know how to spell that word. And then I went to put in another word, and that word I didn't know how to spell. And so it wasn't finding that word. So every time I was trying to put in the word, it was coming up with all of these other suggestions that were not the words I was looking for. And because I was trying to improve my spelling, I decided not to look it up. I decided to just keep testing out letters and testing out versions of spelling these words and seeing if I could figure it out. And I did get stumped. And I'm not going to tell you what I got stumped on, because I'm not here to humiliate myself publicly, but I can tell you that I'm a pretty good speller. And it turned out for one of the words that I just had one letter wrong, and it still couldn't figure it out. It still couldn't figure out the word. So I kept getting frustrated, trying and trying again, putting in letters, guessing, amazed and experimenting, and having a no-go. Have you ever had that happen, where you put in the letters, trying to get what you want as far as the word, and you don't get the outcome? I was getting the message, hun, you cannot get there from here. You can't get there from here. The point is, I was not getting the output I wanted from the input I was giving. So I was putting in information. I was inputting information. And from what I was inputting, the output that I wanted was not a possibility. Kind of like a mindset. The mind has a set of beliefs, a set of perceptions, perspectives, and conditions. And we often have an idea of an outcome that we are looking for in life, in a situation. You fill in the blank. But sometimes the outcome is limited by the mindset. Sometimes the outcome is limited by the inputs. Whatever the mindset is, determines the probability of the outcome. Whatever is contained within the mindset determines the probability of the outcomes. We forget this. We know when we have a recipe that if we're trying to make chicken noodle soup, we better include the chicken, because we will never get to chicken noodle soup if we don't have the chicken. We will never get it if we don't have the noodles. It's just like a mindset. The mindset. What is the mind set for? What is your mind set for? What is it set on? When I am looking at the conditions in my life, when I am looking at the conditions around us, it is wise to look at what we are set on and what our mindset is set for, because that will tell us what the probabilities and the possibilities are moving forward in the external conditions. And if we don't look at the mindset, we can feel like the principles aren't working because we're asking, we're seeking, we're trying to learn, yet we're not putting in the right substance to create the outcome of our desire. The mind is often looking for more. It's often looking for more peace, looking for more joy, looking for more freedom or for more finance or for more love, whatever it is. Socrates said the secret of happiness, you see, is not found in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less. The secret of happiness is not found in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less. Wisdom from 450 BC. The illusion of the ego, the illusion of the separate self, the illusion of the mind can be that if we keep adding to, we're going to find what we want to get, rather than looking at what is, looking at what the conditions are, looking at what the mindset is, looking at what is right in front of us. Life has a lot of what happens. There's a lot of events and activities that happen in our lives. In fact, life, you could say, is a series of happenings, and we can get lost in them. We can sink in them. We can float on them. We can use them to crucify us, and we can use them to lift us up and set us free. Sometimes with what happens in life, we give some things all of our attention, and some things don't get enough. But what all happenings have in common is that a mindset comes with them. And from here, from this mindset, a birth takes place and conditions begin to root. A growth begins to happen. Something begins to prosper from the mindset, and the next external experience is born. So how much power is in a mindset? Socrates challenged us to let go of past and current paradigms with an invitation to put away all outdated old mindsets and instead focus on developing our capacity. He said, develop your capacity. So is life what happens? Or is life what we do with what happens? Is your life building upon what happens to you, what has happened in your life and in your external circumstances and conditions? Or is your life what you are doing with what happens? I have noticed about myself and others that when life happens, which it is always doing, we often look at it with some self-responsibility. We sometimes look at it with feeling like we are responsible for it all, taking all the responsibility for what happens. And sometimes we show up and we take no responsibility for what happens. So we have the tendency, right, to oscillate between those things, taking some, taking all, taking none. Often we project it all onto someone else, or we take too much and we overburden ourselves with accountability when accountability is eluding the other parts of the whole, the other parts of the system that are also part of the conditions that create. We would grow if we were to look holistically at what happens. Take a breath and just think about your tendencies. Do I take too much responsibility for what happens in my life? Or too little? Do I fail to look at how I might contribute to something, how I might have created the conditions that allow something to come forth? Or do I, every time something happens in life, take so much responsibility, I move into paralysis or eternal analysis, and I spin and I sit and I circle around what happened, around the past? Victimhood can miss its power, no? Being stuck in victimhood is being stuck in a state where we can miss our power, where we can miss our birthright, where we can miss our contribution. The idea of a perpetrator and being a perpetrator and not taking accountability misses opportunities for growth, misses opportunities for expansion. If we're not willing to look at our stuff, if we're not willing to look at how we create, then we're missing the mark. And on a human level, these things are a matter of psychology. They're a matter for psychology, and they're also a matter for spiritual growth and development. And there is so much value in exploring these ideas. There's value in exploring what was in my mindset that contributed to this. There's value for having accountability with the whole and the other aspects of the whole to create systematic change and to create shift and change in our lives. There are values to those things. And if we pass them and go directly to a spiritual perspective without making the space for growth and development on the human level, then sometimes we call that a spiritual bypass. Because we are here to allow everything to flow in us, through us, and as us, and from that co-create a world that works for all, co-create a life that works for us, co-create God in expression on this planet. So that's critical, it's important, it's valuable. On a human level, on a mental level. But a funny thing happens with the ego. A funny thing happens with the mind. The mind has a way of often missing the parts of awareness, the perspectives, the perceptions, the practice that would be most beneficial and transformative. So oftentimes, even when we're aware or trying to be aware, it's like that ship on the horizon, if you've never seen a ship before, that you miss. You don't even see that it's there. It's like the little mouse running around the house that all you can see are sometimes little tiny turtlets that appear here and there going, there's something here, but I don't see it. Because it just slipped through another crack. The mind has a way of shielding us from the opportunity to really see and look at the parts of what happened and the parts of our mindset and the parts of our consciousness that would be most beneficial if we were able to really see with eyes that can see clearly. So our spiritual practice and our spirituality and the path of the mystic offers another plane of thinking, offers another possibility. Not that the human practice, practically applied, is irrelevant, but that we also know when it is time to step into an entirely different plane of thinking, so that we don't miss the part in each happening where our growth lies, where our transformation lies, where the benefit is. The master teacher, Jesus, taught in parables. I think he did that so he could keep his job, frankly. But he taught in parables so people would have to sit with and think about these lessons so that he could talk beyond the times, beyond the conditions, beyond the personality, and talk straight to the spirit. And he often threw his listeners for a loop by his thinking. So people would be in the paradigm of A, B, C in the alphabet, and he would start speaking in 1, 2, 3. He would say, it's not about being a victim or being the perpetrator. It's not about looking at this or looking at that. It's about a whole nother viewpoint, a whole new mindset. In John 9, we have the story of the blind man, the man who was born blind. And the radical rabbi was asked, who sinned? Was it this man or his parents that he was born blind? You see what they're asking. They're saying, was it this man or was it his parents? It has to be on this plane of thinking. It has to be either them or him. There are two options here. Victim, perpetrator, black and white thinking. Two options. And the radical rabbi responds, neither this man nor his parents sinned. So neither one missed the mark. But this happened so that the works of God would be displayed in him. This happened so that the glory of God would be revealed. What? This awful is here. This condition that we don't want is here. This thing that feels like a problem, feels like I need to go to the source and figure out how to eradicate it, who to blame. It's for the glory of God. The radical rabbi is giving an invitation to move into an entirely different plane of perception, perspective, and an entirely different mindset. A mindset not bound by human conditions, and not a mindset not bound by the operations of a time. And why? I believe it's because sometimes we exhaust that mindset. And it is only through a new mindset that we can birth a greater reality. There's a third road, a third path, a third plane of thinking. I was recently hosting an AG&T Speaks with my minister colleague friend, Reverend Temple Hayes from down in Florida. And she was talking about the mystical path. She was talking about the mystical path, and whatever she said in this experience got me thinking. And then there was a sharing of a beloved about losing a job. And I always think about this when life happens, when there are happenings, and use this example of losing a job and the job situation. Now, when that happens, there is a mindset that is constructed, right? So say you lost your job today. Say, if you don't have one, say you got one and then you lost it. You can fill in the blank with anything that happens that you didn't cause it. That on a physical level and an awareness level, something happened in your life. So you fill in the blank for you, but something happened and it's not your fault. Something happened, you didn't choose it, you didn't cause it. I think there are plenty of things to fill in the blank with that could come to mind recently. So there is a happening. The mindset that we arrive in when we feel like we didn't choose something, when we feel like it happened to us, is radically different than the mindset that we experience, that we arrive in when we feel like we chose something, right? So here are two exact external conditions. A job this day, no job the next day, okay? A job this day, no job the next day. And you fill in the blank with your experience. One I feel like I chose, the other one I feel like was handed to me. The one I feel like I chose, say I retired. Say I have been working and I've had this career life. I just got a bonus. They threw me a party. They celebrated me. I got more than I thought I ever would. And as far as spiritual value from this glorious experience, and I retired. And I wake up the next day and I don't have a job. Can you feel that mindset? And now go to the other one. I walked into my office. I had this experience. My job was eliminated, or I was told I was let go, or whatever the circumstances are. And I wake up the next morning and I don't have a job. The external conditions are exactly the same. Job yesterday, no job today. What is very different is the mindset. One is loaded, and the other one is loaded, but with different things. I believe the third path is the one that invites us to let go of the idea of whether or not I chose it or whether or not it happened to me, of whether or not I'm the victim or whether or not I'm the perpetrator, of whether or not this happened or that happened, and just arrive and say, it's here. It is what it is. It is what I am looking at. This is the current external circumstance. And to drop the story. Breathe into that for a moment. Drop the story. When we find ourselves ready to drop the story, we open the way for an entirely new mindset. But that only comes when we're ready to drop the story in a deep spiritual practice, in a deep spiritual experience, because humanity is always going to ask whose fault it is and put the focus there. And sometimes the danger of that, the good of that is that part of that is looking at our stuff, right? Allowing our brains to expand, allowing ourselves to be aware of things we were not aware of before. But the danger is that we can never leave there. We can take it not as a stepping stone or a path to somewhere. We can take it as a place to live. A solid mindset that will only recreate according to its likeness, according to itself. We can be caged in that, trying to be free. We can get stuck in that when we are trying to reveal our divine birthright. What is new? What is next? So humanity asks, whose fault? We often ask, what is my part? And an expanded level, we also have the spiritual invitation to simply look at what is and to consciously co-create the mindset that we want to choose. So we can rearrange our minds, look back to that job example or whatever you filled in the blank with, and say, how would I feel differently if I chose this right now? Maybe I was ready to be done with that job anyway, and I was scared to leave. Maybe there's a better possibility. Maybe this just happens to be the right time for me to move on to what's next. Maybe I could take a break, a well-deserved break that I've been needing. When we get out of the story, when we drop the story, we can also change the expectations. And we can look at what part of the mindset is optional. I don't have to take what I've been taught needs to come with this type of experience. So the world may have shown me, my upbringing may have shown me, my ego may show me, my victim side, myself that feels hurt may show me that I need to take the mindset with it. That's the time in our lives where we just come in as the nurturing, compassionate healer into our own lives and our own mind and just hold that self. But spiritual practice tells us I will not stay in that mindset because I can choose another mindset that will birth a greater reality. Divinity dives deep. It bows to the what is. It says, it is here. Namaste. Which means I behold the Christ in you, which means I will stand right here and I will find the anointing in this now moment. I will stand and I will not be stuck by a mindset that will be on a hamster wheel of humanity. Recognizing that humanity has been in this human condition, in this human existence, in this limitation since the time of Socrates and before. So I will allow myself a different path. I will allow myself a mindset that is set in the mind of God, in the mind of the unlimited. So what do we do when we bow to what is? We invite it in. We say, what do you have for me? And we also call forth the Christ, the awakened consciousness within, and we say, what do I have for this? And we ask questions like, what am I to do with this? How will this grow me? What am I learning here on a soul level? How can I contribute from this? And from this too, I shall rise. So what happens when we let go of the old paradigm is we just say, it is here. To whatever we're standing with, whatever we're standing in, it is here. And a new mindset is born. Not fixated on the old details of the past. We let go of the story and we let in the possibilities. So it is for each one of us to look at the mindset. Because from the mindset that we have in each moment, we set the stage for what emerges next. We birth the possibilities by what we attend to, what we give attention to, what we nourish, what we nurture, what we grow. So in each moment, let's ask ourselves, what is the mind set on? What is my mind set on? Is it set on humanity and the human condition? Is it set on right and wrong? Is it set on not my fault, all my fault? Is it set on victim, perpetrator? Is it set on limitations, conditions? Is it set on the cause? Or is it set on the effect that we can create when we put a new cause into motion? Because the plane of thinking we are on holds us hostage to the conditions of the world, and the other one sets us free and unleashes our inner potential. So in each moment, we ask ourselves, what is the mind set on? And let us set it on God. Rumi said, out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there so the glory of the divine can be activated and demonstrated in and through and as me. Namaste.